And it hasn't been recorded at all even. Oh, this is crazy. And I think Blackboard is really doing something today. It must be. What is going on? All right, so whatever the Blackboard is doing. So as I said, you must stick to soft coding because hard coding, in other words, if you actually, input the numbers in the formula, then it's a headache because when the environment changes, right? When the tax environment or some input data changes, then you will have to change everything in the formula, right? But the formula doesn't. But if you soft code it, and what you need to change is only the input data, right? You just change this. You don't have to. In other words, next year, if the tax code changes and personal exemption goes up to 3,500 next year, and from next year, uh, uh, you cannot use this if you have already entered 3,200 here. You can't use it anymore. You will have to change this to 3,500, right? But then you have to rebuild everything, right? But instead, you only if you use soft coding, you only need to change this, right? You can reuse this model over and over every year, regardless of whether the tax code changes or not. If the tax code changes, and let's say this becomes 3,000, whatever, 800, 3,600, you don't need to touch this. All you need to do is just change this, right? And if number of people in your business or in your not business, because then it will be corporate income tax, but as long as it's sole proprietorship, then it's not different from personal income tax. And if you're self-employed, it's still the same thing as personal income tax. So let's say number of people in your household changes, number of people that pays taxes changes, right? But all, self-employed. But then in case, if you're self-employed, then all you need to do is add rows, add number of rows, just add, insert. If there are 4 people, right? Self-employed in your household, paying taxes, then all you need to do is just simply do that. And if there are 4 rows, and just use count command, highlight, and then it's going to automatically count 4, and nothing needs to change. I mean, as far as the formula is concerned, formula doesn't need to change. As long as the input data has changed, and input data, you will have to change the input data, yourself, but the formula doesn't need to change. Okay, formula will automatically, point to or grab the input data that has changed. So here, that's how I got 6,400. Some people would enter 6,400 after, manually after calculating, mentally in their head. Oh, it's 3,200 per person. So 2 people, even without this, 2 people, that's 6,400. And then they enter 6,400 there manually. But if you were to enter it manually, what's the point of doing it on Excel? You can just build a table in Word and manually enter numbers there, right? But then that's totally, that defeats the purpose of using Excel, right? You're simply, not, you're simply, completely, defeating the purpose of, Excel, and defeating the purpose of, quantitative model, right? Defeating the purpose of automation, right? We are trying to automate, right? Automation sounds like, something like, giant auto factory, auto plant. Everything is automated, or giant plant. No, look, automation can happen. Automation can start from the very basic things, right? Something like, even tax computation. Now, standard deduction is already given as, 10,000. So I will just, enter standard deduction, 10,000. And I'm not going to repeat the same, I'm not going to repeat the same numerical data, right? Because we don't need to. Same numerical data. And once you have entered input data in the initial, these are initial parameters or initial conditions, right? Initial input data. Once you have put it there, we simply need to recycle it. We don't need to, input it again. So I just make it equal to B5, and there you go. And then our taxable income is simply the difference between this and the sum of these, right? It's the difference between our total expected income and so. So this is B minus sum of everything. Oh, and then, that must be it. But why did I do it this way? And I explained it last time. Sometimes, what if this number comes out as negative? It could come out as negative, right? Because if your expected income, if your total expected income is something like, $5,000, right? If your expected income is $5,000, yeah, you just had a part-time job, and that was it. You just worked 1 month, and that was it. And then you, when it's time to pay taxes, you try to, you can apply everything, right? You can apply everything. And of course, this will be the minimum, in this case, minimum of 5% times this and this. And it's going to be, of course, a smaller number, right? Like this. And 2 people, so there will be personal exemptions will still be the same. That personal exemption alone is greater than already total income, right? Standard deduction, yes. But then think about it. Then if I do, B minus sum of all of these numbers, what would happen? Right? Of course, it will come out as negative. Oh, Jesus, why the sum there? Then it will be a negative number, right? It will be a negative number. And
So,
then think about it.
Professor,
Yeah, yeah.
If you make
Am I?
$5,000, you'll get back $16,000.
No, no, that's not. It's just, mathematically, it's just mathematical. I mean, this is taxable income, and this means taxable income is negative. That's not tax. It's taxable income.
I see.
Okay? So if the taxable income is negative, think about it. If the taxable income is negative, then what does that mean? You apply tax rate there and you got negative tax.
You pay no
That
taxes.
is, yeah, you just pay no taxes. It doesn't mean IRS owes you that money, right? That's I'm explaining. That's why I use, this. That's why. That's why if maximum between 0 and B15 minus sum of all of this. So whichever is greater. So think about it. This is for the case where this comes out as negative. You understand? If this comes out as negative, then we simply use, Excel will simply pick 0 so that there will be no taxable income. Right? You understand?
I love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, the taxable income, look, just mathematically, if your total income is 5,000 and you apply all of these deductions and exemptions, and then your taxable income will come out as negative, right? But negative taxable income means negative taxes. But can there be negative taxes? Huh? What do you
No.
think? No, there can be no negative taxes. It sounds like if taxes are negative, it's as if uh, the, the the IRS will pay you. The IRS owes you, right? As if they are going to pay you that. No, it's just math. That's obviously not the case. If you don't have any taxable income, then simply your taxes will need to be 0, right? That's all. So, uh, but just mathematically, just in case, think about it. You made so little income. You made so little income, and you want to apply all of these, exemption and deductions, and then just
Professor,
mathematically, it will come out as negative,
I have
right?
a
Yeah,
quick
yeah. But
quick
let
tax
me finish.
question. Okay.
Let me finish. Let me finish. So if your taxable income if your taxable income comes out as negative, then that doesn't, from IRS perspectives, that is useless. I mean, because you have negative taxable income, applying tax rates to this negative taxable income, you will just have all negative taxes, right? And negative taxes means, like as if, IRS owes you money. No way. So just to prevent this kind of, senseless, this is a nonsense, right? So just to prevent the nonsense, that's why I used this command, maximum between 0 and b minus sum of all of these. So just in case, if this comes out as negative, then 0 will be picked automatically by Excel, right? Of course, in our case, uh, taxable income total income minus all of this is a positive, so the positive number is picked. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Who was that? Please, you can go ahead now. You had a question, right? Someone had a question. Who was that?
That was Rich. I was just gonna ask you, how is it sometimes that people with kids usually get a lot more back on their yearly taxes if they didn't pay that much in taxes?
It's not the uh, yeah, I know. I mean, sometimes, uh, it's not um, what do you call that? It's simply they are getting, like a stimulus check. They are getting
I think it's credit.
no. Yeah. It may be called by, child tax credit or whatsoever. So in that case, it's a reverse tax. It's reverse tax, and then even if in that case they mathematically they would, mathematically they owe taxes, but the reverse tax or tax credit, child tax credit, is more than offsetting their tax liability. So they are getting like a tax refund. They get a tax refund. Um, so this is, in a way, uh, it is, significantly reducing their uh, significantly reducing their taxes, and so it would be outside, it would be outside these regular exemptions and deductions, right? It will be outside regular, exemption deductions. Uh, so it's a separate line item, like child tax credit, or if there are separate line items like that, then um, even if that makes their tax return, that makes their tax refund positive, right? So that is uh, the idea behind the welfare system, but and the idea behind the reverse taxes. Reverse taxes, basically the idea to um, distribute the income and distribute the wealth evenly across the different different strata of the society, different economic strata of the society, and uh, but just like everything else, it could be a subject to abuse. Some people abuse that. I mean, originally the spirit of reverse tax, the origin of the spirit of the original idea is a good thing, because there are people who make uh, really low income, and it's not because of their fault, but because of the economic structure of it's a systemic, if it's a systemic thing, of course, then what is a systemic thing? I mean, they have no college, let's say, uh, uh, no college education, and generally without college education, uh, the generally you don't end up with a good paying job, uh, and if you don't have any, rather than college education, it's a skill. I mean, if you have these days, um, a lot of large corporations, even the Wall Street firms, they are not really looking for college degree. They just want to recruit people, who are holistically smart, holistically smart, so who can quickly learn, and people that they can mold, put into their own mold and train. So it's really an abstract thing, because you can't spot that, holistic smartness. But there are people like that, and you probably saw the movie, what was that movie? I forgot the name of the title of the movie. There was a
Finding Nemo, perhaps?
no, Finding Nemo. Oh, Goodwill Hunt, or Goodwill Hunting, or mm, uh, Goodwill Hunting, or it's Matt Damon movie. Matt Damon is like a math genius, and but he was working as a janitor in a college, in a university, and one day, in a math department, the math chair of the math department um, wrote a whole process, steps of derivation of um, some, a formula, some equation. So the whole, the chalkboard, uh, like uh, there are, 4-stage chalkboard in a large auditorium. There are uh, two, 4 chalkboards, right? You can bring it down, or bring it up, or you can move them around, but there are 4 chalkboards. So it's a large auditorium, and the he wrote, long steps of derivations for an equation, and it was full, right? And all 4 chalkboards were full with that equation, and but he had a mental block. He was stuck at some point. But this guy, I think his name was Will. That's why the title of the movie was Good Will Hunting. I mean, if I remember that correctly. And he was just a janitor in this university, and after class, he was cleaning the classroom, and of course, as he was cleaning the classroom, he was trying. He looked at this, equation, and he was trying his solution from where the professor got stuck. So he solved it, and he left. And then the next morning, the professor came back, and he was startled to find his equation solved. And he was asking around, who did this, and then none of his students did that. And then the only and he deducted, basically he deducted that after class, it is only people who are coming into the classroom are only the janitors. So he went to the and then chief of and he found out that it was this young man named Will, who was a janitor. So he went to the chief of the custodial service or something, and the chief of the custodial service was, not very uncooperative. And this is also something that is, well noted in the American society. It's like a sheer disrespect for intellect. Anti-intellectual, they call it anti-intellectualism. And the chief of the custodial service was, probably he was, somehow jealous, or, I mean, because the chair of the math department came to look for Will, who he thought was just his underling, right? The chief of the custodial service thought this was just a kid underling and just quiet, reserved, and keeping to himself. Um, but to think that his underling is a genius and who belongs to a strata different from him, probably he couldn't bear the thought. And this is the case, in a lot of rural, blue-collar America. This is the reality. I mean, people. So what I'm saying is, so when the chair of the math department came asking for Will, then the chief of the custodial service was very uncooperative and very rude. So the assistant of the math department, assistant to the chair of the math department, said, how can you talk to him like that? Please show some respect. He's the chair of the math department. And then the custodial service said, oh, he is the chair of the he is the chair of the custodial services department. Why can't I? I mean, why can't he? I mean, this type of attitude, which is very, you can look up. There's a very famous article about anti-intellectualism in American society, and this is a very notorious article, and especially in blue collar America, this is like, if you are, even if in that family, Will must have been a very promising kid, but the parents were not supporting, and because you are not above us. This is the kind of, you may be smart, but you're not above us. This kind. I don't understand the that kind of mentality of the parents. Every parents would want their kids to overachieve them, if possible, outachieve the parents' generation. But in some communities, and also this is very pronounced in like the Bible Belt, or I don't know, Rust Belt, or not necessarily Bible Belt, but the Rust Belt, and also in like southern states like North Carolina, and like West Virginia, and there are movies about mining towns, mining communities where the children grow up to become miners. I mean, there's nothing wrong with becoming miners, coal miner, but coal is, like I said, industry. But they just want their kids to become coal miners. But then one day, what if the coal mining, obviously, there's a competition between industries. I mean, as far as the energy is concerned, there's a competition between fossil fuel, and even within the between the fossil fuel and non-fossil fuel, right? Clean energy, what so-called, recyclable, and then even within the fossil fuel, there's a competition between coal and clean coal and oil, and look, all this. I digressed a little, but all this is due to of course, sending kids to college is a huge financial burden. But then students can, someone like Will in that movie can find many scholarship, many funding sources if they just take SAT, and based on the SAT scores, they can apply for a lot of scholarships. But then, he just didn't know that. He just didn't have that opportunity. The sad ending, the movie had a sad ending. So Will was, the chair of the math department vouched for Will. He wanted really Will to go to college and succeed. And because he has so much talent, he's so smart. He has brain. He has talent. He has so much promise. So Will was trying to look into the possibility, and he was studying, and I don't remember the whole movie, but I don't know if he took SAT and tried to apply for admission or not, but it was a sad ending. Will gave up at some point. He had this inner struggle that going to college and going for a better future will sever his relationship with his background, with his family, and with his community. So he quit, and that was a sad ending. But the movie was most likely I think inspired probably by that article, that paper written titled Anti-Intellectualism in America or something like that. And yeah, you can look it up later. And a famous, a quote from that, anti-intellectualism in America is like, your intellect is as good as my ignorance, right? That was the motto of the communities, the societies that are disrespecting intellect, right? Your intellect is as good as my ignorance. This is a free country. This is an egalitarian society. If everybody's equal, your intellect is equal to my ignorance. It's just simply like that. You're taking that. Taking the interpretation too far. These people are taking the interpretation of egalitarian society too far, right? And also, the reason, I'm sorry, I digressed too much, but the reason the talk even got to this point was because because of the child tax credit and things like that. Because there are people who take advantage of that too. Basically, if you take advantage of that too much, that's basically abuse, right? And abuse of the system. You're not paying into the system, but you are just taking out too much from the system. There are people like that. And once I talked about, once there was a, I couldn't understand how he could even of course, he could take a class, but this student was got a financial aid or something, or I don't know. He just wasn't, wasn't studying at all. Just took the financial aid money, and spent that money on not on books or studying, but the Pell Grant money that was supposed to be used for books. He didn't use it. So maybe he just was going to school just for one semester, because if you're not, the Pell Grant money must be supported by the receipts, right, spent in the bookstore, designated bookstores. But he didn't spend that money obviously on the books, but on bling blings, on his, on Nike shoes, and things like that. So obviously the Pell Grant money stopped. He couldn't go to school anymore then. But he was really challenging. Like why does he have to pay for anything? I mean, as if he's entitled to the payouts from the governments. I mean, everything must be free for him. Or look, if you want something from the system, you must pay into the system. You must contribute. There must be a contribution to the system. You must contribute to the system, and then you can request or you can demand benefit. But if you don't contribute to the system but just demand the benefit, it's like not taking care of the tree. You have to farming. You have to till the land, fertilize. You have to water, irrigate, and then you have to contribute to the activity of farming. And then at harvest, then you can claim your share, right? The fruit can be then distributed to those who have contributed. But then it's like just that student was just like saying, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to pay for anything. I'm not going to pay for tractor. I'm not going to pay for fertilizer. I'm not going to pay for irrigation of the land. But then I want my fruit at harvest. I must have everything for free. Then this is obviously not the you're not entitled to anything for free. But there are people who take advantage of the loophole of the system. As I said, something like child tax credit. The spirit of that law is to help people who fell into the cracks of the system. In other words, the reason that they don't have good jobs that pay good income is because, let's say, they didn't go to college, or they were not trained with valuable skills. And it was systemic because going to college costs a lot of money, so their parents didn't have enough money. So it was a systemic. It's a systemic thing, not their own fault. They couldn't go to. But again, if you have, just like in the movie Good Will Hunting, right? If you have a talent that's shining through, you will have opportunities. There will be a lot of scholarship opportunities. You can go to college and you can but anyway, the as I said, the spirit of the original spirit of reverse taxes. Reverse tax means yeah, anybody who is successful and wealthy also benefited from the system. In other words, you cannot. Some people think Jeff Bezos is successful because thanks to his own merits, purely based on his own merits. People like Jeff Bezos, who's that guy? Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. They were all, yeah. They are successful first of all because they are very smart. They were, they had talents. They were very smart. Obviously, you can't deny, when I watched the interviews, that Steve Jobs had with like PBS, in 1981, right? 1981. Young Steve Jobs was there, and um, he was, with an interview. It was, I don't know if he had a script prepared, or it was most likely it was an impromptu. But then he was so articulate. He had such a clear business model. It was already so well set up. Even if it is impromptu, he had all these ideas well organized and neatly organized and cleaned up. So that's how he could be articulate about it in an impromptu interview. Yeah, they are. I mean, it's their own merits. They are successful, but as not as an individual, as a company, right? These people are all, CEOs and chair of their own organizations. But think about it: these companies cannot be successful if the society didn't have good social infrastructure, such as good school system. I mean, if the U.S. society didn't have a good school system, right? Good universities, for example, public or private, good universities, especially public, which is funded by the taxpayers' money, right? If they didn't have, if the U.S. society didn't have good universities, then how could they get their good employees? Good employees are talented and well-trained employees are the cornerstone of the success of their business. Two, economic and political stability of the U.S. society, right? And economic and political stability comes from national security and policing, right? If the society is unstable, there are so many bandits, like in the Wild West, bandits around, and armed robberies, every day, how can they have a stable production environment? And even if they have a stable production environment, how can they ship their goods to the retail outlets or retail outfits? There's no way they can do that because the trucks will be raided every day. The trucks will be raided. It's almost like there will be even and then what about what about the infrastructure? Talking about the trucking. If the U.S. This whole continent is not well served by the road system, well-developed road system, and well-developed railroad, or the air carriers, well-developed air carrier systems. How can their products reach the customers, right, safely? I mean, but think about it. Railroads. These are railroads. A lot of them are privatized. I mean, in the U.S., railroads are a lot of the railroad cars. Railroad engines are all private companies, but keeping the railroads safe is also part of the security, that comes from the and the roads, the social infrastructure like roads, bridges, tunnels. If they are not well maintained, the success of these people, Jeff Bezos, or Elon Musk, success of these people would have been much, 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 much way smaller. They may not even have existed even today, right? But what are all these? How are these all funded? Taxes, right? Taxes. So those successful people, definitely they are successful because of their own merits. They are because of their intelligence and everything. But then it's they cannot take the whole 100% credit, right? Almost 50% of the credit is thanks to the society that made it possible, right? So that's why there's a reverse tax. I mean, they are wealthy, extremely wealthy, top 0.1% wealthy, but they are not paying taxes that they really the fair share of taxes. And then, but the wealthy people who are, let's say, if the tax system is correct and if they are paying fair shares of taxes, they are basically those taxes that they are paying is a basically balancing out. I mean, what they benefited from the system, they are returning to the system. So people who fall into the cracks of the system can be helped by the reverse tax. Okay, everyone, I went too far, and it's like already like 11 o'clock. But this is why there's reverse tax, and the original spirit of child tax credit and things like that is to it's reverse tax, and it's to help out the people who couldn't benefit from the system, right? But then again, deliberately, there are people who are taking advantage of the system. That should stop. It's like insurance fraud, right? People who don't work but just try to live on stimulus check. Eventually, think about it. When the stimulus check stops, you're gonna have to work one way or the other. And there are people who just uh, have. I mean, there was a. I don't know if you remember this. There was this Octomom. Octomom. Have you ever heard of Octomom? This woman in California. I think it was like 10 years ago. Anybody heard of Octomom?
Octomom, like the woman
Yeah,
who
yeah.
had like 8 twins at once.
Yeah. That's right. That was like about 10 years ago. This woman, or more than 10 years ago, this woman got something like fertility treatment to have as many children as she could. But even this fertility treatment was paid for by, like, California is too much, welfare state, I mean, if you want to have 8 children, then why don't you pay yourself? You must pay that expense for yourself, don't you think? Because it's you who want to have 8 children or 12 children. But she went through this, treatment, and that was even paid for by taxpayers' money. And then she had 8 twins, and she had children before those 8 twins. So in total, she has like 12 children or whatever. She was even on the on TV show. I mean, and this has got to stop. Crazy things, they make money for criminals, serial killers. They go to jail, but they uh, and some unscrupulous, just money crazy publishers buy the copyright of their story, and they sell books, and I think because son of Sam law. There is son of Sam law, and that law prevents the uh, hard criminals like Jeffrey Dahmer, or serial killers to benefit from publishing their story. Uh, but if it is not hard criminals like that, some people like Wall Street, money managers, like Bernie Madoff, through Ponzi finance, Ponzi financing. Um, he made money, and his fund, exploded one day because couldn't keep on doing Ponzi financing. Um, but even in jail, then they write this book and they make money. This something like this must stop, because this is unbridled, capitalism. Shameless, unethical side of the unbridled capitalism. Um, this must stop. Also, Octomom is the same case. She got that fertility treatment, by public money, and then she had 8 twins, and she's on, a child, for 8 twins, and with the kids that she had prior to that, like 12 kids, she's living off child tax care credit. There are people who are taking advantage of the system, and there must be a law to prevent something like that. She used taxpayers' money for that treatment, and then she's living off taxpayers' money, which was originally designed to help out only the people who are really in need, not people who are uh, you know uh, who see
Abusing.
entrepreneurial opportunity in it. I'm sorry, someone was saying something.
I was just saying, instead of abusing the system.
Abusing the system, yes, but it took so much time. So let me finish off, because it's it's been 1 hour 30 minutes already. But so you see why, as I said, because if you have no income, or no taxable income, or negative taxable income, then uh, to prevent any, just mathematic negative number, which can result mathematically, right? Which can result. I use this command: maximum between 0 and this. And if this number is positive, that number will be picked. If this number is negative, 0 will be picked. And in our example, this number is positive, so it's positive, right? This number is. And then how much is the tax in the 10% bracket? 10% bracket is between $0 and 14,600. So the command will be B6 is the 10% tax rate, and in another model, another example, I did it slightly differently, but but I did it this way here. Minimum between B19 and E6. B19 is what is B19? Oh, yeah, our taxable income. And E6 is the upper bound of the first bracket, 10% bracket. So for this bracket, whichever is the minimum, if our taxable income, think about it, our taxable income could be below 14. This upper bound, 14,600, right? Below 14,600. And so whichever is minimum, right? And if it is not, if it is not, less than this, then in that, then only up to because 10% is only up to 14,600. This 14,600 will be picked and will be assessed 10%. 10% will be assessed, which will be, of course, in our case, our taxable income is greater than this. So this is picked, and 10% is assessed automatically. Therefore, 1,460. So for the first bracket, we pay 10%, and the second bracket, next bracket, which is between 14,601 and 59,400. For this bracket, you pay 15%. And so we need to compare if our taxable income is greater than that or not. So hence, we can use if command here. So I've been telling you, if command is it comes in very handy, right? It comes in, if B19, our taxable income, is greater than E6, yeah, that means, think about it. Our taxable income may or may not be greater than this or not. And in our case, it is greater because you might say it's obvious it's greater because you're looking at it. But Excel, but this has to be universal, right? This model has to be universal. In other words, it should be applicable in any situation. In any situation, not just in this situation, but in any situation. So to make it applicable to any situation, we have to make this work for any income, any taxable income, be it greater than the first bracket or not. So if it is greater than this, then the next bracket, 15% bracket has something to do. 15% bracket is applicable, right? If it is not, it's not applicable. So I told you, first comma means and, then, right? If it is like this, then apply 15%, which is there, B7, 15% to the minimum of B19 minus E6 or E7 minus E6. Now, whichever is smaller, right? B19 is our taxable income. Is our taxable income smaller than this? Or is this smaller than our taxable income? E7, right? E7, so we are comparing our taxable income with E7, which is the upper bound of second bracket. So whichever is smaller, because 15% tax rate applies only up to 59,400, right? Makes sense? So if our taxable income is greater, then this will be picked, right? Because I don't want to pay, I only need to pay 15% for between this range, right? So automatically E7 will be picked because Excel finds that this is the minimum, E7 is the minimum. So take the difference between, we'll take the difference between E7 and E6, right? Then for this range, then I will pay 15%. And in the third, then if our income is less than, taxable income is less than this, we will stop there. Excel will stop there automatically. But it may, our taxable income may be greater than that. So we'll have to actually extend it all the way to the full, full range of brackets, tax brackets. Actually, there are like seven brackets, I believe, 7 brackets or 5 brackets. So then next will be the 25% bracket. And to be applicable, for this bracket to be applicable, that means your income must be, taxable income must fall between 59,401 and 119,000, 119 and 950. So then again, the same thing. If our taxable income is greater than E7, which is upper bound of the second bracket, right? Of course, then our taxable income is greater than that, so our taxable income then falls into the next bracket or next layer. So our taxable income is greater than E7. Then we'll apply B8, right? B8, which is 25% times that rate, a minimum of the two, minimum of our taxable income and the upper bound of that bracket, and our minimum will be picked. And then we take the difference between our taxable income and the previous, you should be careful with your mouse button. If you hit, just accidentally hit enter, when it is in formula, it will automatically enter that cell that was selected. So not to mess up the formula, be careful with your mouse button. So our taxable income is picked and the difference is taken, and then for the difference between 65K and 59K, which is roughly about 6K, 25% is assessed. And otherwise, if that's not the case, just zero. In other words, if our taxable income is not greater than this, then we don't go any further. In this bracket, our tax liability is zero. That's what it is. That's what it means. I've been telling you in if command, the structure of if command is first if you compare, right, the target cell and the reference cell, and the first comma, which means then, and then there is an action to take, right? Then there is an action to take, and then next comma, otherwise. Next comma means always otherwise. Okay. All right. So that way we have come to tax liabilities in each bracket, in each tax bracket. So our total taxes, actually is total expected taxes. Total taxes from the expected income. Total taxes will be sum of all of that. Sum of all of that. Right? And then quarterly, your expected taxes quarterly are just this divided by 4 because it's quarterly, right? So we come to 2,370 quarterly taxes. Now, once again, the reason, if you are on a payroll, the payrolls department will, the human resources department will, or I don't know, or depending on the organizations, the payrolls are separate from human resources. But most of the times, they are different. You every month, right, from your paycheck, tax is withheld. Those taxes are based on your expected income. Okay. And then if you are a self-employed, right? If you're self-employed, then based on your expected income, right? Based on your income projection, you can calculate the taxes for the whole year based on the your projected annual income, and pay taxes quarterly, like this. Again, if you're self-employed, and if you don't have, if you know, if you don't have, most self-employed people will just do the taxes on their own. So then they don't pay any taxes until the end of the year, and during the tax season, the next year, right, April, they will pay taxes all at the same time, just one lump sum annual. That will feel like a big uh, that will feel like a big chunk of your income, right? Because if you're paying, because it was whole, a whole lump sum for the entire year. But anyway, that's what it was, due. So instead, some people pay taxes quarterly, right? Based on their projected income. And again, if next April, um, based on the actual income of the previous year, if you have paid more, you have refund. If you have paid less, you get you pay, you pay the balance. Okay, that's basically what happens in April. All righty, so everyone is okay with this so far? Hmm? Everyone is okay with this? I'm not hearing from anybody. So I think it is 11:07. I will have to assume that everyone is following. It's a good thing I was searching, these beautiful sceneries. Um, uh, All righty. I have 10 people, and that's usually 10 people. I mean, I have like 20 people on the roster, so the other 20 hardly show up on. I gotta check if there are 20 people on the roster. And the other hardly shows up. Others hardly show up on Collaborate. So I hope everyone has been following so far. Although it's like shouting at the into the hollow cave. I will have to assume everybody has been listening. So it's about time to take a break. It's been a very long 1 hour 30 minutes. So so it's 11:08. So we will reconvene at 11:18. Okay. All righty. Let's take a break. All right, we're back. We're back. So let's go to the next example. Next example. Next example is a little more enriched. I don't know if I should call it enriched. A little more realistic, a little more detailed. So let's take a look at this example. So we also have Joe and Sue. Okay. I guess it was Rob and Sue last time. Okay. So I guess Sue divorced Rob and married Joe this time. And then we have a few other things. Two earned or investment income. Now this time we don't have only earned income, but investment income as well. You remember income is primary source of income is labor income, right? It's also called earned income, right? Earned income, and the and then the passive income. Passive income is like rental income, intellectual property, like if you have copyright, patent copyright, those are all passive income, right? I also have some passive income like copyright. That when you write a book, the publisher takes away the copyright, right? And you get a small percentage of the most. So that means even if it is my work, even if it is my intellectual work, I cannot reproduce it. I cannot. Only the publisher has the right to reproduce it, and you sell that right when you publish. But anyway, passive income. So interest on savings, that's passive income. Interest income is a passive income. Interest on IBM bonds. This couple has now bonds, and interest on IBM bonds, and interest on Boston bonds. But so this is municipal bond, right? Municipal bond. City of Boston, right? So it's not company bond, corporate bond, but municipal bond. And municipal bonds are tax exempt, right? Municipal bonds are tax exempt. So I put it on the side. I put it in the different column. That's why I put it in column C. Okay, I wonder. I better make it look a little bigger. Is it better? Nobody says anything.
Just shows a bunch of screen.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
No, I was just saying it just shows a bunch of screens right now.
Bunch of screens? Wasn't it just the?
Never mind. You're back at the Excel.
Look, I was, I just wanted to make sure everybody is looking at the same thing. Okay. Yeah, it was, a reflection of my screen over and over. When I look into the, when I switch the screen to Blackboard, the Collaborate session, then that's what it looks like. But I just increased the magnification to 120% of this Excel file. Just wanted to make sure it looks better to you, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So, as I said, municipal bonds are tax exempt, so I put it in a different column. They own GM stock, so they receive dividends from GM, which is $600. Now, dividends are dividends go by different, dividend income goes by different tax rate. So, regardless of your taxable income, dividends belong your taxable income will go by different tax brackets, and so different tax rates, but the dividends will always go by uh, a different tax rate. It's always 15% across the board. Okay, regardless of your earned income. So it's not earned income, it's investment income. That's why in this column C. And capital gain on property. Capital gain on property. Capital gain on property was negative. So that's 3,000, negative 3,000. In parentheses, that means negative. Because capital gains is not earned income. I should have put it in column C. I don't know why I put it in column. Because it gets. And the capital gain on AT&T stock was 2,000. That means your holdings of AT&T went up by 2,000. And the capital gains is also like subject to 15% across the board. It's not really. It doesn't go by your the regular tax bracket. So we'll need to first find the gross income. Our gross income will be, of course, sum of all those numbers. So sum, and you highlight all these numbers, right? B9 up to B9. So the entire range will be automatically summed. Summed automatically, right? Now, you might wonder, can I use auto sum? No, auto sum cannot. You cannot use auto sum here because this data range is not contiguous, right? There's a gap. There's a gap in data, right? There's a gap in data. So if there's a gap in data, you cannot use auto sum. Auto sum works only with a full data range with contiguous data points throughout. If there's any gap, auto sum doesn't work. So you do that. That's the gross income. And here, the investment income alone or passive income alone is some of these numbers. Okay. And then these are what, and then from here, these are what will be deducted because these are expenses. Mortgage interest, 12,000. These will be deducted. Real estate taxes, yeah, you paid taxes already, real estate taxes, so it will be deducted. State tax withheld, it will have to be deducted from your taxable income. And charity, the donations you've made, right? Exemptions is 3,300 per person. So how many people are in your household? Let's say if there are, the couple and children, right? So if there are 4 people in the household, just enter 4 and then there, and we will multiply 4. Okay. And then the taxable income will be from this sum of all of these. I want you to do this with me, right? Don't just, don't just watch it, but I want you to do this with me, okay? Close the parentheses already, okay? Why is it? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Looks like the screen share is off for a while. I was trying to click on hide, and so everyone is fine up to this point, right? Now, next, income range, right? So there are like, this was, I actually used, I actually used 2018 income tax bracket. So in 2018, there were 7 brackets, okay? 7 brackets, meaning, so this was Trump tax plan, tax code. Trump, during the Trump administration, they brought change to tax rate, and the tax rate went down a lot for wealthy, right? Like previously, and slightly for the middle income group, and for people who are making more than, previously the bracket for this was like 34% or something like that, so slightly higher for the top 1%. And then another thing is the really rich people, right? Extremely wealthy people, their income is not earned income. Most, right? Wealthy people, the top 1% wealthy people's income is mostly investment income, not labor income, right? So, and then this $400,000, this is the case of, married filing jointly. So individually, it would be like, 200,000. But individually, if you're making 400,000 individually, right? That's like, the annual salary of the president of the United States is 400,000, about 400,000. Senators, congressmen, they make about between 300,000 and 400,000. Most likely they will make 400,000. But still, president of the United States or senators and congressmen, it's still earned income, right?
Does that count
But
the income from special interests, like the money they're paid by companies to vote for certain things?
no, no, no. That is over and above. I mean, this 400,000 is uh, their official the salary on their official payroll, right? Which is basically approved uh, uh, by the Congress, right? And beyond that, if they're honest, they will report beyond that, right? They will in the tax report, you know, and the money, and if they are paid by special interest, moneyed interest, uh, the law won't allow. I mean, anything above, I don't know. Let's say any donation or gift above $250 or $500. I don't know that limit. Is illegal. Any political donation above, for any political purpose, donation for any political purpose above $200 or $500, that's illegal. So if it is under that limit, they will report just to, and if it is above that, if they are honest, they should decline, right? They should decline accepting it. But people like Mitch McConnell and most Republicans, and Democrats too, right? Well, if they um, if they receive donations above $500, instead of declining, they will just take it, but don't report it. Uh, I don't know. I may have said before at some point, not maybe not in this class, but in another class, I said Mitch McConnell is the public enemy number one. He's the one getting paid, lobbied by moneyed interests like NRA and large corporations, because Republicans their platform is their platform is small government, and small government is obviously less public spending, government expenditure. I mean, you cannot be perfectly Democrat, perfectly 100% Democrat, 100% Republican. I mean, it's not a black and white thing. It's a gray scale. To some, I am Republican. To some extent, I am Democrat. I mean, for example, too much welfare. I'm generally Democrat, but I'm against too much welfare because, like giving money to Octomom for personal pursuit of personal pleasure or personal, interest. Why do we pay, my tax dollars shouldn't go to Octomom. And if my tax dollars go to Octomom, I can't, my bloods boil, right? My blood boils. There's no other. And then about gun control, I'm in favor of gun control because an open carry or concealed carry or whatever, the safest societies in the world, South Korea, no gun. Okay,
But
not
to be fair, South Korea's defense is paid for by the United States.
yeah. It's not defense, but I'm not talking about the defense, national defense. I'm talking about the guns in the hands of the civilians. It's unthinkable in the countries like there is no gun crime. First of all, no gun violence, and if there is no gun violence, if there is any violence, the consequence is much less lethal, right? And in most European, West European countries, South Korea, Japan, you can walk around past midnight. I mean, all night you can just freely walk around without worrying about your safety. The only safety you have to worry about is, of course, in the dark, in the dark alley. If a woman is, walking by herself, obviously it's a, recipe for disaster. Huh? Why would you walk in the dark alley in the middle of the night? You go, walk in the lighted street where there are more people. And if it is
What if that
inevitable,
woman has a gun to protect herself?
no. So first, you don't have to have a gun. You can avoid a dark street. You can avoid a dark street, first of all. Why?
Yeah,
And
it doesn't only
gun in
happen
the
in
hands
dark
of
streets.
gun in the hands of, I mean, if you have to patrol a dark street, then you are a law enforcement officer. If you're a police officer, then you will. Every man in South Korea can handle gun. They can, because they have military obligation. They have military duty. They serve in the Army, Marines, or Air Force, or whatever branches of the military. But once they are discharged, when they are civilians, they can't no gun in their possession. Even if you're active military, when you are off duty, then no guns. You cannot carry guns or bring. All the guns are left in the military base, and that's the common sense. The
But
only
consider this.
civilian right.
There's no gun crime in Korea because no one has guns. But if everyone
Exactly.
has a gun, there would be no gun crimes in America too.
No, not at all. Still, there will be gun crime, because if there is someone you don't like, you hate that person, right? And if the gun is in your hand without too much thinking, there are people without too much thinking. It's easy to kill that person. And without getting this,
everyone around him has a gun too.
Is there,
so that if that guy shoots him, he's dead.
Look.
So is there no murder in South Korea at all?
You can shoot someone without being seen.
Not in New York City.
Well, still in New York City, for example, if you have a sniper rifle, right? And that's in the civilian hand. That's the crazy thing. Even any civilian can get a sniper rifle. And from a top of a, some skyscraper, right?
I'm sorry, but that doesn't happen. That does not happen.
Yeah, there's laws. You can't get automatic weapons.
And then hands in the let's say you have a license, you have a gun permit or license or whatever. But you don't take good care of it. I mean, you don't lock it up in a safe location. Some children, it ends up on some children, and it happens. Accidentally, they fire it upon themselves, or on their siblings.
Professor, I have a question.
Yeah. Hold on. The point is. The point. Why did it digress? We don't have much time. But first of all, if there's no knife, there is no reason to get cut, right? Of course, knife is needed because you need it for kitchen. But nobody wills the knife because first of all, carrying a knife, it's already seen, spotted by other people. And then anybody spots someone carrying a knife, will call the police, and this disaster will be prevented. And if everyone carries a gun, it's going to be a safe society. No, I carry a gun, but if someone shoots me from behind, right? You don't have a chance. You can have a chance to protect yourself if your enemy faces you in front of you, and if you're a fast drawer than him, then you can protect yourself. But if someone shoots you from behind, you have no chance to protect yourself. How does it make carrying a gun make it a safe society?
The same thing
Huh?
can be said
Because
about knives, though.
because
Someone
Yeah,
can
but
carrying
stab you from the
when,
back.
everyone
It's the
having a
same thing.
gun
There's
makes
bad people.
look,
No matter
look.
what, there's going to be bad people in the world.
So first, then if they're bad people, put them all in prison. Then, okay? If they have a
but it's not
conviction
that
record of
simple. Like,
gun violence, if they have a conviction record of gun violence, put them away.
but this is like, in America, it's not North Korea. Like, you can't just put people away. Like, I don't know.
No,
And also,
look.
the prison
Why?
system is a problem in and of itself. But that's a whole nother story.
I know. But first of all, it's legitimate to put away someone who committed a crime with a gun.
Yeah, that
Where's the
happens.
prison for?
You're not even allowed.
Prison
If
is
you
where's the
committed a
prison
crime with a
for?
gun, that's a federal offense. You can't own guns anymore after that.
Yeah. So
There's
first of
rules and
all,
regulations that go to owning a gun.
but
They don't just give it to
repeat.
everybody.
Even if you happen convicted of a gun crime, gun violence, and after serving time in prison, when they come out, they still repeat. They're recidivism, right?
No,
Still
if
do
you're
the same
if
crime.
you
Then put them. It's legitimate to put them away forever. It's actually waste of taxpayers' money to keep them alive. Actually, huh?
Yeah, but
Sorry, that's
it's a
definitely
waste of
alive
taxpayer
by,
because
with
the death
taxpayers'
penalty
money.
is inhumane and it costs a lot of money. So
Well,
like it
isn't
makes
it
more sense
inhumane?
to keep people locked up for life.
First of all, isn't it inhumane to kill someone
Yeah,
in the
but
first
it's
place?
inhumane for the state to kill someone too. Like it's different when it's person to person versus the state killing you.
Look, that's the punishment, right? You're saying punishment is, inhumane. Now, that's only an excuse, right?
I'm saying
If you
capital
kill
punishment is inhumane.
whatever, I would say, yeah, capital punishment. Um, if it is inhumane, at least you don't have to execute them, but at least put them away if they repeatedly commit gun violence, right? And again, knife or whatever. Still, I'm not saying knife is excused. So whoever is using a knife to kill someone, backstabbing someone, they are put away. Isn't it right?
it's the same thing
Once they get caught,
for guns,
they will
though.
be tried and they will be convicted and they will go to jail. So do this, and so gun, but so the same thing. If someone, everyone carrying a knife or everyone carrying a gun doesn't make it any safer. Okay. Even if I carry a knife, if someone stabs me from behind, I don't have any fighting chance. Right? Same with the gun. So having a gun, having a knife, everyone carrying a gun, carrying a knife doesn't make a safe society.
Oh,
It
that was
doesn't.
the argument. The argument was whether everyone having a gun would make this a more safer society.
Well, yeah,
I'm on
yeah.
your side on that one. It's definitely wrong. You
That
don't
was
want
the
it.
that was someone. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
the
that was me, and
argument. But someone said,
it actually would create a safer society.
listen,
Definitely
listen.
not, bro. I mean, what he's talking about is arming even felons, like in a society where you have felons with fucking guns. I'm sorry, excuse my language. That's definitely not a good idea. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but if everyone's got a gun though, like literally
Okay, but does
everybody has a gun,
not
then he can't
everybody
do anything with
understand?
that. He
Not
has no
everybody
advantage over
understands how to
someone because
handle a
everyone
gun
has one.
safely. People are moral.
Look. I've been repeating this. If someone shoots you from behind or stabs you from behind, you don't have a fighting chance.
No,
It doesn't make it any safer.
forget that. I'm thinking about the people who don't even know how to handle guns that have guns. Those are the people that are going to be the unsafest.
Yeah, exactly. It ends
Everyone
up. I
having a
mean,
gun
you
is
you have
definitely
you
a
have
terrible
a
idea.
you have a training. You have a training. You have a permit. You have a training, but you don't lock it up in a safe place. Ends up in the hands of children, right? And then it happens, right? So how can it be any safer? Of course, I understand. We live in urban area, and in urban area, you don't need to you don't need, if you live in Alaska, if you live in the wild, wilderness, you have bears, you have if you live in those, you have wolves, in roaming around, if you're living in some areas like that, yeah, you can have a permit, you know you can have, and then you can carry, you can keep a gun in your house, but first of all, um, so the argument, I don't want to extend this because this class is not about that, but what I'm saying is nobody can be perfectly 100% Democrat, nobody can be 100% Republican. It's a gray area, gray scale. I'm Republican in some points. I'm in favor of Republican position some point. I'm in favor of Democrats in some aspects. But I'm generally more in favor of Democrat policies. But welfare, too much welfare, I'm not in favor of Democrat ideas, proposals. I'm rather in favor of Republican ideas. But in general, for example, people abusing and still funding the people like Octomom, still funding.
But okay,
like
going back to Octomom,
yeah.
she is creating 8 workers. Like, that's pretty significant for one person.
Well, if it is more than, I mean, if the society, U.S. economy has already enough workers, maybe 8 workers are not a bad thing, but it's marginal. It's marginal effect. Marginal contribution may not be that much. And also, you need to think about this. The contribution of those 8 workers, the contributions those 8 workers will make in their adult life, will it outweigh? Is it greater than the taxpayers' money that went to that, went to feeding them, and if obviously if the cost is greater, then it's not an effective policy. As I said, I'm not against legitimate reverse taxes, legitimate child tax credit, but this is case of Octomom is an abuse. It's not a legitimate case. It's not a legitimate case. Okay, so basically welfare society, I'm in favor of that. And Western Europe, Scandinavia especially, some people say there's high suicide rate, and it's not really happy society. If everyone is happy, why would they? But in general, quality of living is definitely higher, and all all the societies were even until 1990s, they were all aiming at like welfare society at like Scandinavia. I'm basically in favor of that, but just to make sure, we need to make sure that the society isn't being, the system shouldn't be abused. The loopholes of the system must be closed, and there shouldn't be people like Octomom taking advantage of the system, right? But the Republicans are always, just simply portraying and highlighting the abusive cases like Octomom. This is why we can't, have a big government. Big government is always, being, disincentivizing people to work. I mean, it's not incentivizing people to work, but it's rather disincentivizing people to work. They just want to live up welfare checks. So we have to close the loopholes in the system. Welfare society is not a bad thing. Welfare society is, what uh, what we have to add for, but not the welfare for those who don't need, or those who don't, who take advantage of that. If we close the loopholes, and if the funds are managed and distributed efficiently, then only those who need that will get it, and those who don't need it won't be able to get it. Those who want to take advantage of the system uh, won't get it. And if it is like that, we won't have uh, fiscal laxity, right? In other words, no, lavish spending of, tax money, right? It will be just the right, optimal use of tax money, and the society will be better off overall, right? But so let me. We are almost, and the last time I I mistook the somehow I thought the class was until 11:30, and I kept going on. So I told you I will be on time today. So here, so this was the tax rate in 2018, and we are still on this tax rate until they change these tax rates. Then it's gonna have to go through the Congress again. But the point is, what is in debate in the Congress, 3.5 trillion, infrastructure bill. Most of it is, coming from 1%, top 1%. And the top 1%, you might think, oh, top 1% would be making like more than $600,000 a year. I would say top 1% makes like more than $400,000 a year, right? Top 1%, more than 400 or $500,000, right? Then don't they pay 35%? No. Once again, earned income, right? Earned income. For earned income, if you're making, for example, if you made $200,000, let's say, as an individual, right? You made $200,000. 200, let's say, so you pay 10% up to this, so 32% up to this. So let's say you made $200,001, and what you pay. So that means that $1 will be subject to 35%. I told you that's the concept of marginal tax rate. If you made just one more dollar than this, then the next dollar, 35 cents of that next dollar will be taxed. And then what you pay 32% will be between the difference between the two, right? So there will be about 43,000, 42,200, but roughly 43,000. Only for 43,000, you pay 32%. I mean, it goes by the bracket, right? So the total tax, in the previous example, the average tax rate will be, think about it, considering this, average tax rate will be this over this, right? Which is I'm sorry. I used what did I divide it by? Not B15, but B19. I mean, from the taxable income, right? So if you think about it, on average, you paid only 3.6 6%. This is called average tax rate or effective tax rate. Okay? So although your top tax rate was 25%, your top tax rate was 25%, you didn't even pay, on average, you paid only 3.64%. So when you're, so one thing you have to understand. Oh, I'm sorry. That was quarterly. What did I do? The quarterly tax. That's annual. I'm sorry. I had to do the total. That was quarterly. So if I do that, no wonder. You paid only or effectively you paid 14.67%, right? 14.67% a year. Not at 25% or not at 15%, right? Not at this top tax rate. The top, so just like that, if you're making $500,000, right, or you're not paying a top tax rate of 35%. You go through the every bracket, so your actual effective tax rate will be much lower than the top tax rate. Okay, it will be much lower than the top tax rate. And then and another thing is that the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill is mainly, Democrats are intending it to come from 1% wealthy. And 1% wealthy isn't going by this. Of course, up to a certain point, they have, if they are CEO of like Goldman Sachs, CEO of something, they have, their annual salary, which would be like millions of dollars. Of course, they will have to, it's earned income. It will have to go through this. But most top 1% wealthy, generally, most of their income comes from investment income. And the investment income is taxed. Investment income is generally capital gains and dividends and interest from bonds. And all these, investment incomes are taxed at 15%. It's taxed at 15%. Right? So then, that is the reason Warren Buffett once said, I don't know if you've, heard this, if you've ever heard of this quote. Warren Buffett once said that his secretary is paying more tax than himself, than he, right? His secretary is paying more taxes than he. Why? Because Warren Buffett's income is mainly investment income. So he'll be paying at 15% rate. He'll be paying 15%. I mean, his income will be like millions of dollars a year. And, he'll be paid, just at 15%. His secretary must be maybe making, it's Warren Buffett's secretary, so he or she will be making something like 100,000, six figures, 150,000 or whatever. Then if the secretary is making 150,000, that's mainly earned income, and earned income goes through all these tax brackets. And if Warren Buffett's secretary is making something like 157,000, right? Then the effective tax rate or average tax rate would be somewhere not near this. It will be weighted average of all these numbers, weighted average, right? So it will be like less than 22% or so, or 22%. So effectively, the secretary is paying more taxes than in terms of the tax rate. That's what Warren Buffett said. But that's why it was possible for Steve Jobs. You remember that Steve Jobs was kicked out from Apple in the in 1990s, like 95, for about 10 years. He was still the majority shareholder. I don't know if he was chairman, or I think the institutional investors that invested in that has the majority shares, the super majority shares, institutional investors. One of them would be the chairperson. Steve Jobs is only the founder of Apple, and his shares, he must be one of the major shareholders, but his holdings was probably not more than 11%, or still that's majority shareholder. But they kicked out around 95, I believe. They kicked him out from CEO position, so he stepped down, and then they brought back Steve Jobs as CEO in 2005 or something. And when Steve Jobs came back, he said, he will take $1 annual salary, and he will, and he kept it. He got $1, but he didn't need salary because from his Apple shares, his dividend income was already huge, right? It's the same for any of these guys, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. They don't need salary, actually, right? They're from their stakeholdings in the company, right? Their shares in the company. They are making millions of dollars a year, and they pay 15%. So that's what is, that's what is not, that's what needs to be straightened out. That's why they are saying, the Democrats are saying they will raise, taxes on this top 1% wealthy by 1%, by raising it by just 1%. So they can raise 3.5 trillion, right? Not only these individuals, but large corporations that have evaded taxes all this time. So and making them pay fair shares, that means so then on their capital gains and their dividend income, they will it will be like at least 16%, right? Not 15%. I don't know how it's going to be done, but that's the difference between the source of income. For average working people, the primary source of income is earned income or labor income, but for top 1%, it's mainly investment income. Okay, now, so according to this tax bracket, applying 2018 tax bracket, I'm gonna just put the numbers. They are filing jointly. This is a couple filing jointly. So I'm going to now this way, as I said, and I'm going to drag it down, right? And then you can simply copy, right, the formula in there by dragging it down. And then here I have already built in there D20, that equals to D20 plus 1, right? And then everything is also already copied into the cells, so once these cells are populated, oh, not this one. Oh, come on, it's just not this one. Once these cells are populated, these cells get populated automatically, right? Now, and this is soft coding. Keep in mind, we need to soft, because what if, in 2021, what if the tax code changes again? Huh? So then these rates and these, tax brackets will change. Then, if you have already hard coded it in here, then, if in 2001, if the tax code changes, tax rate changes, then I will have to rebuild all over again, rebuild this all over again. But, by soft coding, I don't have to do it all over again. All I need to do is simply, right, download a new tax, bracket from the source, and then once I downloaded it like this, and then it's going to be automatically reflected here, right? Okay, and then so then why is it stretched like this? Okay. All right. Then let's take a look at the tax computation, right? Here, 10%, 15%, 25% bracket, and dividends are taxed at 15%. So then first, so our taxable income at 10%. What did we? You can refer back to the previous one. It was the maximum of either or the minimum, right? The minimum of minimum of our taxable income, or this, times 10%, right? Times 10%. There you go, right? And see, that's what I did here, exactly that. Okay. And then what do I do here? Actually, I wrote it here, separately, and I would like to introduce, right? Oh. B17, right? If B17, which is our taxable income, is greater than K20. Oh, something's not right here. There's no K20. There is no J20, right? So I will. Okay, let me do it this way. I will have to change everything to everything that is K to J. It's pointing to the wrong column. So if I do that, there you go. And you might wonder, what is that? What is that dollar sign? That dollar sign means you're locking into that cell. We're almost out of time, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up next time. But once you do it this way, now because basically the formula is the same thing. You compare, our gross income with, the if it is greater than this upper bound, right? Or I will rather do it. Let's, I can do it D20, but next time I'm gonna do it next time. Then there's something to do. So then, H21, which is, the tax rate, then, we will apply 12%, right, between the minimum of our taxable income and the next upper bound of the tax bracket, minus the previous, upper bound. And then otherwise, if it's not the case, then nothing here. And we're gonna copy and, because it's the same formula, basically I'm gonna copy and drag it down. But the problem happens if I don't lock B17, because when you copy and paste down, all these rows will change. As you go down to the next row, this will be J21, this will be H22, J22, J21, but B17 shouldn't change. If it goes down, then this will point to B18. Then B18 is not our taxable income. It's just blank. There's no data. So, and as you go down every row, that kind of adjustment will automatically be made, and that's not what we want. We don't want B17 to change. We want B17 to stay there, fixed there. That's why B17 needs to be locked. And how to lock that cell? So you're locking into this cell. You simply place the cursor here or here, enter F4, hit F4, not enter, hit F4, and then these dollar signs will automatically be put there, which means, you are locking into column B and locking into row 17. Okay, that's what it means. So we're gonna come back to this in the next class, because we're already out of time, and I already last class you already you guys already owe me 15 minutes, but I went too far, right? Alrighty, so that's it for today. Please remember the quiz 1 is due this Sunday night, right? And if you please get a head start, because if you encounter any technical issue, and if you send me email early on, I have response time. I have sufficient response time, and I can reset it, or I can troubleshoot, right? If it is something I can handle from my end. Most likely by resetting it, it will be resetting your exam. But if you start late with 1 hour left, you need at least 2 hours. I mean, 2 hours is a sufficient time. For 2 hours, you can easily, it won't take more than probably 1 hour. But if you start with less than 2 hours left, like even less than 1 hour left, and you run into technical issue, that's already like past 11 p.m. Sunday night, and I won't be checking my email at that time. I will be most likely sleeping. And if you send me an urgent email at a time, there's no way it can be discovered, and there's no response time. So please get a head start, and if you run into any issue, then if you send me email, I can discover it soon, early enough, and fix the problem. But if you send me email at the last minute, there's nothing I can do. Okay, so please get a head start. All right, that's it for today. Have a good rest of the day, and I will see you guys all next Saturday. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you
one.
so much. Have a
All
good
right.
week.
See you.
All right.
See you
All
next
right.
Saturday,
Well,
Professor.
Okie doke. Take care, everyone. Take care. All right. I'll stop sharing and stop recording and